All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Exceptions Facebook Lives. I'm your host, Tony. And tonight we have a special guest, Dr. Errin Weissman. Welcome.
Yay! Hey, everybody.
Hi, thanks so much for coming on the show, really, and sharing your story. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm Erin. I'm a family medicine doctor out of Southern Indiana. We got connected through LinkedIn, which was so great because I saw your profile and it said cartoonist, and I was like, "Ooh, I gotta know this physician cartoonist." Um, but essentially, I went through some pretty severe physician burnout about 6.5, 7 years ago, and really felt like coming through that. I didn't want anybody else to feel as alone as I did. And what my recovery path looked like was starting coaching and realizing how fundamental that was to me. And then looking around and being like, where's all like young physician coaches? Because we need this stuff in med school. And really getting that out into the world. Like, you don't have to wait till you're like 65 to like try something else, or you don't have to like just grind through, or you don't have to quit and like go do something totally different. Like, you can have third year medical student love for something. It's just we never were equipped with those tools. Like, I felt like I was very much trained to like, this is how a family doctor is, this is how you have to be. And then when I got out into my big girl attending job, I like looked around, I was like, shit, like the next 30 years are going to be like this. Like, I don't think I can do this. And what I realized at the first, I thought I was broken. I thought it was my fault, like that I was deficient. But what I realized is like, I'm a square peg and they were trying to put me into a round hole, and it was just not going to happen. And so now that's what I do is I help all the other square pegs like find their place in the world and really like be proud of being a square and just claim that inner badassery.
I love that. Yeah, you do all sorts of things now. You're a speaker, you're a podcaster. Also, you have a thriving coaching business too, and you're a
Yeah.
course content creator, right?
Yeah, I do all that fun things. Plus, I'm still in medicine. I work about a point 0.2 FTE. I'm in telemedicine, and then I also do a little bit of faculty work for a family medicine residency, and it's enough because there was a short span of time that I like altogether quit medicine and was like, "Yeah, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore." And then I
Mhm.
realized there was like a little doctor shape, like hole in my heart, little PDA just hanging out there that I was like, actually, I think I do want some medicine. And just finding like that appropriate dose and like realizing that there's nothing broken in me if I want to practice on my terms. It's totally okay. Like, it's 2020. Like, why not? Why not try something different than what how it's been done? And because maybe perhaps that's even better. And it really is what I've learned.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing, and it's such an empowering place that you're coming from and a message that we can really take whatever we want or how little or however much of any field that we want and just combine into our own unique flavor. So,
Hmm.
how did like, just tell us about that journey with how you went from disempowered to empowered.
Yeah. So Um, I've always been told that I'm bossy, that I'm sassy, that like I'm too much. And I remember it was probably that transition from like college to med school that I started like layering up like what a good physician should be and
Mhm,
what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. And it's now where I sit that I can see that eventually I kind of was surrounded by a form of myself who I didn't even recognize. Like, I woke up one day and I was like, who the hell is this person? And what kind of life is this? Like, not that it was a bad life. It wasn't. You know, I was making the good doctor salary and all of that sort of thing. But I just felt so numb. And I was like, I looked at pictures of the girl who was kicking ass, taking names, and I was like, yeah, she didn't think that this doctor stuff was going to be like this. That where did that person go?
mhm.
And so it was through the process of like talking to med school best friends and like residency colleagues and be like, are you doing okay? Like, now that we've graduated, like, 'cause I'm talking about within weeks of starting my attending job, I was like, something is not good here. Like, it's okay and I'm making a big salary, but like, I don't know about this. They kind of there was two parts. There are people who are like, no, I love life. Like, it's wonderful. It's good. And then there are other people like, yeah, me too. Like, if you find a solution, let me know.
Mhm.
And so I'm squeaky wheel. So then I went and talked to my new office manager, and she was like, well, you have made a lot of transitions, and, it'll settle down. And maybe you should start like on an SSRI because, that maybe could help you. And I was just like, no, pass. And
Mhm.
then I went to my medical director because I wasn't going to stop because I wasn't finding my answers. And she was like, yeah, me too. That's why I went into administration. I was like, oh, well, I'm like 3 weeks into practice, so I don't think they're going to give me a leadership role anytime soon. And then I got into my CMO's office, and I was just like at that point, like trying not to be desperate crazy, but also knowing like I needed to change. And I had just signed like a big ass contract, and like I didn't know how I was going to get out of it or change it or anything,
Mhm.
and didn't really find any answers. So I did what we tell all our patients not to do, and I got on Google and I was like, how do I change my CV to a resume? And I
Mhm.
started finding a bunch of other people. So this is like 2014-ish. And so people were doing like side hustles or DPC or like tattoo removal or Botox or locums. And I was like, I don't really resonate with any of that. And I felt really low at that point because I was like, what do I do? I don't I don't know. And then I came across this one website that really resonated with me. And it was a gal, she was a family medicine doc. She was older, in career, but yet I felt like her message resonated with me. And so it was the first time I had ever bought like an online course, but I was like, hell, I don't care. Like, if this is going to help me, I will give you my right arm at this point. I just need some help. And so I started working through a course, and she's asking questions about like, how do you want to feel in 5 years? And I'm like, I just want to feel good today. And then
Mhm.
she started asking other like longitudinal questions, like, what would be your perfect morning? And I was like, not this. But yet started like working through and figuring those things out. She started asking questions that were like, I didn't even know that I needed to be thinking about those things. I was always thinking about like, when do I got to get to rinker and rounds, and when I got to get morning report, and what are we having at didactics, and like all that kind of stuff, and not like having like the goal to get through residency and to like get further down the railroad tracks of medicine, but didn't really have like that end life statement that I wanted to have. And so
Mhm.
what I realized by doing that online course, I'm like, I got to talk to this woman. And so I
Mhm.
signed up for a call that now I know is a discovery call. And I shit you not, in 30 minutes, I was like, you can take my money. Whatever it is, however you're talking, like, you can take my money and help me. And so I started doing one on one coaching, and it just totally revolutionized where I was at. And internally first. And then I started making some pretty big external shifts. And
Mhm.
through that coaching journey, I realized, like I said, I was like, where's all the like young physician coaches at? Because, like I said, she was in career, but and that's where I looked around and I was like, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait till I'm 40, 50, 60. Like, I don't want to do that. So, what is it that I need to do? And she was helpful. And of course, I was networking online and talking with other people. And it was really about learning other people's journeys, hearing their stories, and seeing their possibilities, that I
Mhm.
started believing that I could find mine too.
Mhm.
And so, long story short, made a lot of pivots, tried a lot of different things. And now, sitting in 2020, I can say the grass really is greener on the other side. Like you mentioned, all the roles that I'm doing, that's one thing that, like, after I stripped off the layers, I realized about myself, like, I'm kind of like a quilt. Like, I need all the different little patches to make up who I am. I'm never going to be just a blank. Like, I'm
Mhm.
always going to have a bunch of little pieces. So why did I ever think that I was going to be a full-time family medicine doctor only? And it
Mhm.
just didn't make sense. And I was like, of course it didn't make sense because that's not who I am. And so really getting back in touch with that, and still like coming back to that and resetting to like, who I am I today, and
Mhm.
letting go of like the expectations that I had in the past, and like all of that future planning, and being like, just today, who am I and who do I want to show up as? And that can
Mhm.
be different tomorrow, and it can be different from a year from now. but what is it in the here and now? And the other thing that I really learned to do to recover from that burnout was rest.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
in a culture of workaholics, superhumans, almost God culture, that's something
Mhm.
that is not elevated and praised. Like you almost get a badge of honor for who does the longest call or has the, sits with the longest delivery or sleeps the less. I mean, I know we have duty hours and I was in training like when those came in,
Mhm.
but there's still that underlying current of like rest is for the weak that we
Yeah.
need to like reconcile that like no. Like that's why it's called burnout because there's no more gas and oil in the engine and it's seizing up and smoking. So you
Mhm.
have to take time to like replenish that to keep it moving well. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I really work with people about is like white space, hobbies,
Mhm.
because I didn't have any,
Mm.
none. I thought I was doing things, but it wasn't a true hobby. It was like, oh, I need to like make the cookies for the school. That's baking's my hobby, but it really wasn't. It was about being productive and like making things for my children. I didn't
Mhm.
have anything that I just did like just for fun, for no reason whatsoever. And I couldn't even comprehend like the Buddhist sand art that they make these elaborate designs
Mhm.
and then they like wipe them away. And I'm like, what? Why would you do that? And now I understand like sometimes like making something is just about the experience. It's not
Mhm.
about the outcome. And
Mhm.
so I think that's really important and I really focus on that now.
I love that. Yeah. So it sounds like those were some of your biggest struggles and challenges. Well, when you said you had those expectations, were they from just yourself or were they from family or friends or your spouse even or
I think
where
all
were
of the above.
they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think all of the above. Um a lot of internal expectations
Mhm.
and a lot of external people's expectations that like I turned up the volume on. Like, oh my
Mhm.
God, if I quit my job, what is my family going to say? Like,
Mhm.
and like I was the first physician in my family. And so that was a really big deal, both to me, but also to my family as well. And like, I remember that was one of the hardest conversations was going to my dad and being like, I can't do this. But it was also probably one of the best things for our relationship is he was like, I don't want you to do this anymore. Like he saw me crumbling and falling apart. And that
Mhm.
like having I want to say like having his permission, but it was like having his understanding of like
Yeah.
that I was not healthy helped me to let go of that expectation of like this is who I have to be forever and ever. Amen.
Mhm. That's wonderful. So he understood right away, or it took a couple of
I think he knew I was hurting. So he said, luckily he said good things. But like
Yeah.
my grandmother still to this day does not, get it. Every holiday I hear about, like, when you going to go back to the family doctor's office? Like, when are you going to start doing that? And I'm like, I don't do that
When are you gonna
anymore.
get a real job?
Yes.
Hear
Yes.
that.
I'm like, I have a real job and I'm feeding my kids. So we're okay.
Right, right. It's like, how do you judge what's a real job?
Yes. So yeah, still holidays are still weird. Or she'll say like, "So tell me again, what is it?" And I mean, I think she has love in her heart with it, but sometimes I just want to be like, "Don't go there. Don't even."
Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's really wonderful that you have a mostly supportive family. Was your mom on board as well? Or I
Sort of kind of, the biggest support that I had was from my husband. And I always call it the
great.
kitchen bar conversation. And it was
Mhm.
like I had all of those like discussions in my head that I was like leaving my job and I was like doing internet searches. I
Mhm.
think he kind of knew, but I don't think he totally knew. But it was the night we were sitting at our kitchen bar and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And
Mhm.
like we had put the kids to bed and we're just sitting there talking and and it's funny, we recorded a podcast episode where we talk about this conversation. But at the
Mhm.
time, now he tells me he's like, I didn't even know what to say. I was just scared to death. But I remember what or at least from what I heard him say, was
Mhm.
that he was like, Errin, there's a doctor shortage. We'll figure it out. And like just to know, like, even though he was scared to death too, but the confidence that he gave me, like, we will figure this out. It'll be okay. He even
Mhm.
told me, he's like, even if I have to work 3 jobs, like, we're gonna get through this. And I think that really helped make all the difference. And I
Mhm.
know not everybody has that
Yeah.
type of support. And so that's why I think it's really cool to have like your Facebook community that can provide that kind of support. When maybe it's not directly in your home or directly in your life, that like online friends are real friends too. And like
Mhm.
this can be a place of support and connection and encouragement.
Yeah, that's my hope for this group anyway, because I know I don't have people who are that supportive in my any of my family and
Mhm.
most of my friends. It's like people just look at you like you have 2 heads or 3 heads. They're just like, "Okay, you can just be living in la la land, and one day you'll realize the harsh reality, which is that a job's a job and most people hate their jobs." And it's just like, no, even if most people do, it doesn't mean that's the truth, that you have to settle for a life in
Yeah.
which you hate your job.
It's
Yeah, I think.
totally true. And you know those same naysayers were the ones when I started doing telemedicine in 2017. They're like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can take care of people over the internet. You're going to get sued. It's going to be bad." Those are the same people in 2020 that were DMing me trying to figure out how to do telemedicine from their office, and they knew that I had been doing it for a while. So I just say karma's a bitch. And
Mhm,
so live your life, pursue those dreams, and those naysayers will come back around because they're going to see like how happy you are and fulfilled. And
mhm.
like, then they're going to be looking to be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's true. It's so true.
Mhm. Yeah, and we can only go by like, happiness looks different for everyone too. So, yeah, as you said, why try to fit ourselves into other people's holes? We just make our own custom star or rainbow-shaped hole for ourselves, finding our place in the world.
Well,
Exactly.
I find so many people like they talk about the money and the salary aspect of it. And I'm
Mhm.
like, so how's that salary making you happy when you're working like 75 hours a week? Like all
Yeah,
you're doing is cashing a check and shopping on Amazon. Like,
right.
really?
Yeah, for more stuff that you don't even have time to savor and enjoy.
Yeah, is your stuff making you happy?
Mhm.
Cuz and I think that's just so important that people I call them the golden handcuffs because like
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, I can't quit my job or I can't change my job or I can't really pursue what I really want to because it's so nice," or everybody kind of has their own reasons and objections with that, but I just look at it and I'm like, yeah, they might be shiny and golden, but they're still handcuffs.
Mhm. So true. Yeah. Or like some people, I mean, we create these boxes for ourselves, right? Like there are definitely solutions that we can't think of because that just we're too close to the problem, right? So I think that's why getting outside, especially an outside professional's opinion, like a coach or somebody like that, who just like helps you see outside of
Mhm.
yourself. I think some people are just like, I could never relocate, but then it's like, why? Why would you settle to continue to live in this super high cost of living, such as the Bay Area? Well, because my family's there. Why can't you relocate everyone? I mean, I know it's not as simple as that, but I feel like there are always more options than you think there are at first glance.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
had the illustration given to me that it's like we're all stuck in a glass jar with a label on it. And when you get a coach or someone who can help you, they help you read the label on the outside because you can't see it because you're stuck inside the jar. And I think that's so true is like you have to have that outside perspective so you can come up with other high quality solutions that you can't see because if you saw them, you would act on them. I guarantee everyone who's in the group is brilliant. And if they saw the solution, they would do it. But you haven't got there yet. So isn't
Mhm,
it time to try something a little bit different? And
mhm.
see it from a perspective that maybe somebody else can be like, "Hey, your jar says mayonnaise on it and you're trying to be ketchup." Like, "Come
Yeah,
on."
yeah. Own your mayonnaisism.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's really awesome. So I guess who else or what else was most helpful for you in your journey? Do you have resources that you could recommend for our group, or do you want to leave them in the links later?
Yeah, we can pop them in the links. I really started listening to quite a few podcasts, and I felt like
Mhm.
that was an amazing resource. If you guys aren't listening to podcasts, there's about a bazillion out there, and there's
Mhm.
probably half a bazillion that I hate and don't want to listen to, but then there's the few that I like really resonate with. And there's so
Mhm.
much good information, and I think the the fact again, like you can find community and you can find stories and you can find things that resonate with you that you otherwise wouldn't have connected with is so important. So I would say definitely be getting into the podcasting world. The other place that I highly recommend everybody being on is LinkedIn, and not for like the job searchy part of LinkedIn, but for like the connections. It's like an amazing place to hang out. I find
Mhm.
Facebook like really loud and I just don't always hang out a lot in it. But I feel
Mhm.
like LinkedIn, for the people who really want to connect, you can have really genuine and great conversations. And some of my, new best friends have come through LinkedIn connections. And I think that's a great place that if you find somebody doing something you want to be doing, LinkedIn, it's totally acceptable behavior to just DM them and ask them some
Mhm.
questions. And, a majority of people are more than happy to talk about it.
Mhm. Well, that's wonderful. Does LinkedIn have groups as well? I actually don't know, don't haven't used it as much as I want
I
to.
don't know. I'm not really involved on as far as like with the group side, but I just know like there's so much like information sharing and collaborations that are happening in with that
Mhm.
I feel like it's just a really fun platform to be on.
Mhm. Awesome. That's great. And I think one of my, oh, well, I guess in theme with this group, because we're all about self-love and acceptance.
Mhm.
Can you tell us more about that? Did you feel that you struggled with fully loving yourself when you were kind of denying yourself your dreams?
100%. I didn't even know what that was. Are you kidding
Mhm.
me?
Yeah.
Because,
We're
like,
not
for
taught
so
it.
long, our coping mechanism is always pushing, pushing, pushing. Like, that's how we became great students. That's how we, like, moved on and became great in our field was because we were able to push a little bit further in the edge. But that
Mhm.
superpower then becomes our kryptonite when we're not able
Mhm.
to, like, shift out of that.
Mhm.
That instead of being, like, adaptive perfectionists and then becomes, like, maladaptives, and it starts,
Mhm.
like, eating away at us. And so, yeah, one thing that really, really helped with my own healing and self love is self compassion and like really learning what that is. And
Mhm.
then giving myself the permission to accept it. That was huge. You can say the words and you can like write the gratitude journals, but to
Mhm.
really like let that absorb into my being that
Mhm.
it's okay to have feelings. It's normal, actually. And
Mhm.
that situations are hard and everybody experiences that at some point.
Mhm.
And that it's not that I am a problem, but realizing that maybe a problem is in front of me and I don't know how the best way to confront that. And like and really surrounding myself with like that kind of compassion has been really
Mhm.
earth-shattering for me. So there's a great book called Self-Compassion by Dr. Kristen Neff. She's a
Yeah.
counterpart with Brene Brown down in Texas. And I would
Mhm.
highly, highly recommend anybody who has not explored this topic. It's like a $14 book on Amazon and it's like worth every stinking penny of it to
Mhm.
get that book and read through it and just do a few of the exercises. It has
Mhm.
made a fundamental shift in my life.
You're the second person on our lives to recommend that book. I really have to go read it.
Yes. And it's
Wow.
got a workbook with it too. I haven't done the workbook yet, but that's like my goal for this year is to get the workbook and get it done. Um,
Mm.
it's just, it really is. And like the great thing about that book is you can kind of like take what you want and leave it, and it's not very thick. And it really, I really resonate with that message of self compassion. Because
Mhm.
I still struggle with self-love. Like, what is that for me, and how does that feel, and how does it show up in my life, and
Mhm.
and what does it really mean? So I haven't been able to wrap my head totally around self-love, but I have got a good grasp on self-compassion.
Mm. Wow. That's really great. I hadn't thought of the difference between self-compassion and self-love. Like, do you think you could explain what you feel the difference is?
Sure. So like self-compassion for me is being able to have the empathy and the sympathy and the permission to
Mhm.
be who I am and to feel what I feel and not push up against the thoughts that I think and try to
Mhm.
judge them, but just
Mhm.
simply like stating them out and being what they are. Self love almost feels like I need to like smother myself with like self love butter. Like, like I said, I'm still like trying to grasp like the whole concept when people talk about like self love or even self care. You know, as a
Yeah.
coach, I think that's something we talk a lot about too. But like, what truly is self care? And like for me, self care is not like massages and like girls' day at the winery. That's like not my jam. My jam
Mhm.
is like curled up with a great fantasy fiction novel and
Mhm.
like a hot bath and like
Mhm.
just that feels like very cozy. That feels like self-care to me. But
Mhm.
again, like sometimes self-care is like giving myself the permission to cry when I feel like it
Mhm.
or to cancel an appointment when I don't feel up for it. Because I used to just like pound through and be like, "Nope, it's on the schedule. I got to do it." So like
Right.
for instance, my dog that I had adopted way back first year of medical school, he
Mhm.
died in May. And I
Oh.
canceled my whole day.
Mhm.
And the woman that I was 5 years ago, 6 years, 7 years ago, she would have never done that. She would have just like pushed through and been like, yeah, I love my dog, but this is more important. And what I realized when he died was like, no, he was important enough to let all that other stuff go. And so I think, again, splitting hairs, was that self compassion? Was that self love? Was that self care? I don't know. But
I think it was
at
all
least
three.
I'm now in the space now where I can say, like, it's for me and this is the best in this moment and it's what I need.
Mhm. That's wonderful. Yeah, I feel like it would be hard for me to define the differences as well. I think that there is a lot of overlap with all of them. And I love that sentence, self-care is not selfish. Really, we can only, as you had said, in your bio, to truly heal others, we really need to fill our own cup first. Like the right way to give to others is to be this overflowing cup with so much love and joy, and it just flows out rather than you dumping your cup in order to fill someone else's.
Cuz yeah, for so long that's how I felt. I felt like a sponge being like wrung out instead of it
Mhm.
coming from the overflow, but now I realize like the overflow is like mandatory. We should be like fountains rather
Yeah,
than garden hose.
yes. Yeah, it's so true. And then I guess following when you said how self-love manifests in your life, could you share a bit more detail on that?
So, it's been a couple months back. Probably it was the end of 2019, and we were having a conversation. Um my son and I, my oldest son, he's 8. And he said, "Mom, I'm really glad that you're a happy mommy now." And it's
Oh.
amazing to me because when I started this journey, he was like 2. And so
Wow.
at some point he had to know like along this that I wasn't a happy mommy. And so I look back at that and I'm so grateful for that woman who decided no, not this. I don't know
Mhm.
what, but not this. Because
Mhm.
now I see that the love that I've poured into myself, into like figuring out my career path, like my
Mhm.
children are now seeing that and experiencing that. Because I
Mhm.
think now if I had like white knuckle gripped it and like stayed in it,
Yeah.
how would I be now? I just, I definitely wouldn't be the happy mommy that he sees in his life. And
Mhm.
even there's sometimes now when I get stressed out and when I'm like, because I'm just prone to burnout. I really am. I hammer down, and he's one that he's like, "Mom, you're not really smiling very much," and I'm like, "Okay, good indicator." So I
Mhm.
think it's been helping my children, being an example for my children, them picking it up, and then like
Mhm.
being a little mirror for me to be like, "Oh, got to practice what I preach."
Yep.
That's how I'm seeing it manifest out in my life.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it really is. The people around us really know us best, and even when they're young, especially children have such intuition. It's amazing. So, oh, and going back to what you were saying about when your dog passed away, and then the old you would have kept going on. That's what. So I think that's just the medical training culture. Just like I mean, learning later how many doctors suffer from burnout and depression and anxiety, and how we're not given space to grieve even when one of our classmates commits suicide, and then we're all expected to keep going to work as if nothing had happened. Like, we're human too. I don't understand why this career and many other fields put people on this pedestal and expect us to be these unfeeling robots. Like, it's just not who we are. So,
And just
and
not
yeah.
healthy either. Like, I mean, when you're expected to like come out of one room that you've just told a woman like that she has stage 4 cancer and then go into the next room without like missing a beat, like
Mm-hmm.
no, it's just it's inhuman. It really I just think it is. And like I hope as we continue to move forward, especially with the residents that I talk about, like sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
just make them stop. And I'm like, okay, we're going to take 10 deep breaths. We're just going to sit
Mm-hmm.
here and close our eyes. And whatever comes up, but you're not going in that next room yet. I think
Wow.
if I had had somebody doing that for me in my medical training as a resident,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it might have been a little bit different. I maybe wouldn't have listened. I hope my past self would have listened, but just
Mm-hmm.
to like give yourself time and space to feel and to know like there's no shame in feelings.
Yes, that's a huge, huge lesson. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what the feelings are, they're all valid.
Mm-hmm.
The so-called, my family is just very much like, don't tell anyone about your negative feelings. You'll just burden them. Just keep them to yourself. Nobody needs to hear that. And they just get worse, or they manifest in other ways. So that are far worse than if you had just let them out in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. We're about at the not the half of the half hour mark. So, do you have any final comments or thoughts or questions?
I would just say to anybody out there who's watching or watching the replay, like, you're not alone. This is a great group to be in. Keep utilizing everyone in the group. You're not burdening anyone. You're not on top of anyone. We're all freaking adults here. And if they don't want to answer, they won't answer, but they won't know unless you open up and are a little bit vulnerable and say, like, I need. Because we're all human. And I really feel like so many times emotions bubble up as a red flag for an unmet need. And so I just encourage you to use the group, and maybe you don't even know what it is yet, but sometimes just some like verbal processing and just starting to like crack open the surface is the catalyst you need to help move yourself forward.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. Let us know if you're watching the replay. And oh yeah, then Dr. Erin, you'll leave your links, but we can find you at your website, right? And then you have this great podcast called Dr. Me First. Yeah,
Absolutely. Come hang with Dr. Me First. And I'm in the group too. So just tag me. I'm going to keep hanging around. Though I don't like playing on Facebook, if someone directly tags me, I will come in.
oh, thank you. We appreciate it. Awesome. Have a great evening, everyone. And thank you again, Dr. Weissman, for your time.